So, moving right along, our next speaker is also here. I'll be introducing Serena Ahmed-Arroyo, who I haven't met yet, but I'm happy to see you here. Serena comes to Texas Blue Action with a master's in political and macro-social work from the University of Houston, one of my alma maters, where she received the Mahatma Gandhi 2018 Peace Award. I'd love to hear more about that. And a BA in anthropology from Reed College. She was co-president of the Policy Insiders Advisory Committee planning panel discussions with Houston leaders on topics concerning social justice. And also at University of Houston, Serena trained as a community organizer with the Texas Organizing Project, building a policy advocacy power with Black and Latino communities, as well as with the Tahiri Justice Center, and I don't know anything about this, providing legal and social services to immigrant survivors of gender-based violence. In 2017, Serena served as a policy analyst in the legislative study group for the Texas State Legislature. And in the past 5 years, Serena drove social impact through service with the Orlando arts and culture community. That sounds really interesting. She led exhibition curation, community events, volunteer management, patron experience, and community relationships with survivors and their descendants at the Holocaust Memorial Resource and Education Center in Florida. And most recently, she managed partnerships and arts access education programs at Central Florida Community Arts, emphasizing the arts as a vehicle for equity and social change. And Serena's going to talk to us today about REACH, which I am really interested in hearing about. So please join me in welcoming Serena Ahmed-Arroyo.
Hey everyone, I guess I'll try. Is it better here with the mic? Better. Okay. Wow. So thank y'all so much for having me. Too much about me. I am so grateful though to be here with each of you here in Lago Vista. I actually just drove up here from New Braunfels because it was so important to me to be here with you all and tell you about Texas Blue Action, tell you about our strategy, and tell you about this tool that we're using. And that's also used by Biden's campaign, but in a very different way than how really it was intended to be used, to be honest, and how we use it at Texas Blue Action and here in Texas. So actually, I want to start, first by telling you a little bit about Texas Blue Action, very briefly. We are actually the largest relational organizing campaign in the country, and we operate year-round. So what is relational organizing? Let me get a show of hands. When you get a phone call from a number that you don't recognize, do you answer that call?
No.
Yeah. Most of the times, no. Sometimes I do too. But for the most part, right, we're not answering those phone calls. And that's really what relational organizing is all about. It's about reaching out to those that we know and that know us, especially when it comes to elections. This is not something new. You know, this has been something that we've done in this country to make change always. I mean, it was the heart of the civil rights movement. It's the heart of women's rights movements and labor movements. But of course, when it comes to elections, and when it comes to using smartphones and to using apps, that's what's new and trendy. Although in President Obama's campaign in 2008, relational organizing was the heart of his campaign. But again, we didn't have the smartphones, and we didn't have the apps. What we've seen recently in campaigns across the country, like Senator Ossoff's campaign in Georgia, is they used relational organizing combined with an app to have that back-end operational strength. And they flipped the state. So there's a lot to get into here about why relational organizing is important. I do want to point y'all to this slide and to this poll that, again, is a little bit of evidence for kind of the importance of relational organizing. There was a study in 2023 by The Economist, and they asked Americans, which sources do you trust most for accurate information about elections? Overwhelmingly, folks said their friends and their family more than news, more than social media, more than political campaigns, and more than polls. And so we're getting this data from polls, but more than polls. And it really shows the power of reaching out to those we know. It doesn't mean to stop doing our canvassing, our text banking, and our phone banking through van and minivan. That's extremely important. Stranger outreach is extremely important. It just means that we need to make sure we're incorporating relational organizing as another important tool in our toolbox to turn out the vote. And I'm going to show you a little bit about the success of relational organizing in this next slide, if you wouldn't mind.
Clicker right there.
We forgot to
Oh,
tell
thanks,
you,
y'all.
you got a clicker.
Oh, no, y'all are the best. So you're
Got it.
I appreciate y'all so much.
Down low.
Down button. Okay, we got this.
Hey.
So the goal here is to reach the millions of Texas Democrats who are registered but don't vote. These are our medium propensity Democrats, right? And relational organizing actually has been proven most successful amongst reaching those medium propensity voters. Throughout the course of the time period that Texas Blue Action over the past few years has had a relational organizing strategy, we actually didn't start using this app. We started with a chapter model, but now, for many years now, we've been using this app to relationally organize across the state. Those that were contacted through our program had an average of 22% higher turnout. In 2022 alone, we actually had a 28% higher success rate of turnout at the polls. So this is huge, right? The thing with relational organizing, of course, is that it really is important to have a lot of volunteers doing the work. Because otherwise, it's only as successful. It's a numbers game, right? It's only as successful as how many of us are reaching out to our friends, our family, our acquaintances, and so on. And we're going to talk a little bit more too, because that's not the only way and the only program that we have. We have other relational programs that are sort of an evolution or a next step. But that's really the first step, is gaining proficiency in how to use the app, growing your network, reaching out to those you know, and then we have other programs too. But those first few steps are really dependent on how many of us are doing it. And we're going to talk more about what that looks like here. But I really want to point to this next important aspect of relational organizing and using this sort of tool, the Reach app, which is we're building long-term infrastructure, right? We're building civic engagement within our communities between one another, and not just any form of infrastructure, democratic infrastructure, right? This way campaigns don't have to start from scratch each cycle. And we have volunteers who are mobilized and ready and activated to not only get out the vote in presidential elections, but midterms, and also for legislative sessions. The statewide effort. This map here, we have just shy of 8,000 volunteers statewide in Texas. So we have a lot more. Oh, yes. Oh, great. Thank you so much. Let's make this a little closer. Okay. So this is just to show you how many volunteers we have here across the state of Texas. Also to kind of highlight for y'all that we do have a focus on 10 counties, and we have it's more of a strategic focus more than anything else. It's not a limitation. So these are our goals here in the Texas Blue Action Network. We're going to go through this really quickly because I want to get to the Reach app. But we're turning out the millions of Texas Democrats who don't vote. We do have that target on 10 counties. Again, not a limitation. Our rural districts, first of all, especially in our congressional districts, are so important to winning these statewide Democratic races. We have a focus on young voters and relational organizing, of course, especially with using our smartphones and the apps. It's very effective. And of course, we have an emphasis on engaging all communities, all ethnicities, all organizations and affinity groups, from religious groups to those that gather around their similarities of language. And of course, like I said, we need to grow our volunteer network, which is why I'm so appreciative to all of you for, entertaining this as an option and as a tool in your toolbox, if you'd like it. This is a slide to let you know that, of course, you need to download the app. So y'all don't have to do that right now. I would love it if you felt so inspired and wanted to check it out. But even if you download it, again, using this app is only as successful as far as how you know how to use it. So we invite everyone to come to a training. We're not going to do a training today, but coming to a training is very important. And thankfully, I am not the only person who trains at Texas Blue Action. It's someone much more proficient in technology than me. Thank you. It's our lead trainer, Ben Wolbanks, who is amazing. Again, you are the organizer. The Reach app is your tool. This is just a little sneak peek of the app. So it shows you there's a home screen, there is an action feed. So once you download the app, you would see this, but we would have to give you a campaign key to enter. And again, that's to make sure that folks aren't just logging in and then don't do anything with it. It's to make sure that we actually log in and we use it and we have an impact. We don't want to just have 10,000 volunteers who aren't doing anything. That's not impactful. It's a great kind of one-stop shop for volunteers too. We have an events page as a library with content, and that's actually what Biden is using a lot in his campaign, is through a library gallery, social media share. And there's a chat with user groups as well, and you can actually have your own private user group if you're a campaign or if you're a county or if you're a club of some sort, and have action cards. I might go 1 minute over, but I'm gonna get there. Maybe I'll do 30 seconds. But those user groups, you can make them locked and private, so that way you would be the only one to see certain action cards. And this, for example, is an action card. These are all action cards too. So these are some past examples.
I've used it before.
Oh, you have?
Yes, and I would recommend you do more than one training.
Yes.
It's only about 30 minutes, but sit
Yes.
through 2 or 3 of them, and then it gets a lot easier.
I agree. Once you go through, and it's not too much of a time commitment, you just go through maybe, if 2 is what I would say is a real sweet spot, but sometimes another one just really makes it, you become very comfortable with it, and that's the goal. It's easier to use than Minivan, but still it's something that I had to learn it. It's just something that we have to learn. Again, you can actually see voting history on the Reach profile. We are the relational partner for the Texas Democratic Party, so we sync our information with the voter files in VAN. Of course, we're very careful though about privacy. So when you are adding folks into your network, the only contact information that you will see are folks that you know of contact information you already had. So this is not a way that you can just log in and see, Matthew McConaughey and where he lives and all that. Oops, that's something that I should do. Again, we have weekly trainings, we have office hours, and that would be the next step if you were interested in getting involved. Again, we need everyone statewide in this. We need thousands more folks involved. And that's how, we're going to make the types of changes we want to see here in Texas. Again, just one more note. Once you kind of get through those first portions of growing your network, proficiency of the app, coming to a training, and starting to reach out to your networks, and really doing a very grassroots effort of civic engagement, right? Just getting folks in the know. We're not here to shame people. We're here to connect folks with information, and that's what our volunteers are all here to do. We have other programs that you can kind of evolve to. We have a block captain program, which is very unique because we would actually add voters. You would pick a turf. We would add voters into your network on Reach. It's a very targeted, very small list, no more than 50, might be much less. And it would be your job to communicate with this turf. It would be a 1 block walk to just meet them in person if you don't know them already. But then after that, you get to communicate with them through text messaging, emails, or phone calls. I'm sorry, I know I'm over here. Oh, and that's it. And we have another program too called the Million Women's Initiative, where it's very similar to the Block Captain program, and we're loading targeted voters into your turf. So it starts off as stranger outreach, but these are voters that did not vote in the 2020 and 2022 election. So it's a highly targeted approach, very data driven. We have a data department team that actually did work in Georgia. And so I'm so grateful for y'all's time. Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful to meet you and hope to connect further. Thank y'all so much.